Hello and welcome to B&Q's how-to video on draining your heating system and installing T.R.Vs. This is just one of our many videos. You'll see them on YouTube, or you can also get them on DVD format. But like I said, today what we're going to go through is how to drain down your heating system and fit T.R.Vs to your radiators. The next thing I'm going to show you is the thermostatic radiator valve, or T.R.V for short. Now, thermostatic radiator valves work by automatically opening and closing a valve in accordance with the temperature of the room. Thermostatic radiator valves fit on the radiator in place of one of the existing valves, and you usually replace the manual valve with one of these guys. The valve contains a little wax capsule which expands when heated and stops the flow of water by pushing this piston down. If you have a look inside, you should just be able to see the valve rise and lower as I push it down. Now, as the wax cools, it contracts and lets the water from the boiler flow into the radiator. If they are blocked by curtains, furniture, radiator covers, or if in fact it's in direct sunlight, they won't detect an accurate reading of the room temperature and therefore won't work accurately. As a general guide, the following areas should be set to the following temperatures. So, a living room, you're going to have about 21 degrees. Hallways and kitchens will be about 19 degrees, and then bedrooms will be about 18 degrees. Now, with some of these, the manual you get with them will tell you what temperature these numbers correspond to. However, if it doesn't, what you can do to establish the setting you need it on is set your heating on for about an hour and let the room heat up. Bring in just a bog standard thermometer and put it into the room. Now, if it's reading higher than you want it, what you can do is just turn this down and again leave your heating on for another while and see what temperature it levels out at. Once you're happy with it, you know what number you want it on. You can do this then around your whole house. Okay guys, one other setting on the T.R.V which I want to show you is the frost setting, which is indicated by this asterisk here. Now, that frost setting is for rooms which aren't in use, so rather than heating them up to a comfortable 18 degrees like most bedrooms, what you can do is you can set it to this, so the T.R.V will only open up when the temperature gets really low, so close to freezing. But of course, when the heating kicks in, heat the room up just a little bit, and that'll then close the valve again, but it prevents issues with burst pipes, etc. Okay, the next thing you want to ascertain is whether or not you have an open or closed system. So what we have up top here is a mock-up of a feed and expansion tank. That you will have on an open system, and it's generally found beside your cold water storage tank in your attic. In order to stop the influx of water to that, there should be a feed pipe to one side of it and a gate valve on that. Once you have that shut off, that should stop the influx of water. Then you can go down to drain your system. Now, next up is just a quick view of what your closed system might look like. Generally have a pressure vessel in your hot press right beside your hot water cylinder. However, in some cases you might have it built into your boiler. But remember, if you don't have a feed and expansion tank, you are going to have a closed system. And with a closed system, you don't need to worry about turning the water off, because as the name suggests, it's closed and you don't have a constant influx of water. Okay, so now that you've ascertained what kind of system you have and you've turned the water off, you want to locate your drain cock. Now, generally you'll find your drain cock either on the last rad in your system or the lowest point in your system. You might also find one just below your boiler. However, if you can't find one, or you don't think there's one installed, what you get is one of these self-tapping saddles. Instructions are very straightforward, nice and simple for the DIYer. What you can then do is just attach a garden hose onto that and run it outside to drain your system. However, if you happen to have your drain cock already installed, what you can do is get a bit of hose and a Jubilee clip. Put that onto the nozzle on your drain cock and tighten up the Jubilee clip to make sure the hose doesn't come off while you're draining the system, because you don't want the water running everywhere. Now, as an extra precaution, you can also get a cloth and wrap it around the pipe just in case any water runs down. You can also have a paint tray under just in case there's any few drops that come off. Now, Once you have your hose attached, run that out to a drain outside. Don't run it into ponds or onto your garden, as it can kill the grass. Next up then, you want to open up the valve on your drain cock. You can do that with a small spanner, or you can get a utility key to open that up. They generally leave that run for about 10-15 minutes, and the water will slowly trickle out. Once it's basically stopped, what you can do is get a rad key, stuff your bleed valve on the top floor of your house, and open that up. You'll see the flow of water increase going through the pipe. You generally leave that for about 10 or 15 minutes, until again the flow of water pretty much slows down to nothing. You can leave those bleed valves open, then you move down to the next floor, repeat the same process until the water starts to stop going through your hose, and you just repeat that depending on how many floors you have. Now just remember, once you've done all your floors, you will still have a little bit of water sitting in your pipes and a little bit sitting in your radiators, so just make sure you have a couple of old cloths down, and just be aware there will still be water hanging around in your pipes and your radiators. So just be careful when moving that around. Now, one other point on the drain cock, if you happen to have had an extension built recently, you might actually find a drain cock out in your extension, and you'll have to drain from that separately. The reason for that is they'll generally run the pipework up and over your doors, and of course the water isn't going to go back up through that pipework, so you're going to want to drain that separately. Okay, the next thing we're going to show you, now that you have your system emptied, is how to change over valves. So right here we have a manual valve, and that's generally the one that you're going to replace with your T.R.V. First thing you want to do is, like I said, remove this valve. Now again, just be aware you will have some water sitting in your pipes and in your radiator, so it's a good idea to just wrap an old cloth around the pipe here in case any water comes out. You can also have a paint tray stuck in here to catch any drops. You're going to want two spanners here. One to put onto the nut on the bottom of the fitting, and another one to actually hold the fitting as you turn it. So you're going to want to turn that nut anti-clockwise to loosen it up. And just be aware there might be some water left in here. So after a couple of turns you should be able to fix it, take it off the rest of the way with your fingers. You should be able to pull that piece of pipework out of the way. Next up is the fitting on the radiator insert. So you want to put one spanner around the nut on that, again the other spanner around your fitting, and again anti-clockwise to start loosening that. Once you have it loosened a couple of turns, you should be able to take it off the rest of the way with your fingers. That then is your valve off. However, you will notice that the connection on this T.R.V is slightly different, so you will have to take this insert out. Now you may not always have to do that, you may be... Okay, so now that we have our system empty, we can change over radiator valves or move our radiators. But what we're going to show you now is just how to change over your valve for a T.R.V valve. Now generally when you do this, you're going to be changing your manual valve over for your T.R.V. You can change your lock shield valve, but we'll go through that a little while later. Now there will still be some water in your radiator and in your pipes, so you just wrap a rag around the pipe to catch any stray drops, and you can also slide a paint tray in under just to catch any stray drops. First thing you want to do is undo this bottom nut on your fitting. So you want to hold your valve with one spanner and then turn the nut anti-clockwise. A couple of turns and it should be loose enough to take off with your fingers. And that's your bottom fitting taken off. Next thing you want to take off is the fitting on the insert going into the radiator. So again, you want to hold the valve with one spanner to stop it from turning. And again, you want to turn this nut clockwise to loosen it. That then will be your valve taken off. Now, what you can see on this valve is about a 3/4 inch tread on it. but you'll notice that on our T.R.V we have a 1/2 inch connection. So that means changing the insert that is going into a radiator. Now if you happen to get a T.R.V with the same fitting, there's no need to change the insert. Now what you might need to change the insert is this radiator utility key, because as you can see there's nowhere there to catch a spanner on it, but some of the inserts here will have a hexagonal center to them, so the key goes in and that can turn it. There's one other style, and that's the one that's in here now. It's very similar again. There's just 2 slots on the end of this which go into the fitting, like so, and you turn it anti-clockwise to take it out.